Toto Wolff has spent a decade managing the most dangerous thing in Formula One. Two fast drivers in the same team who both want to win. He watched it tear Mercedes apart once before. Now it is happening again. Except this time, the threat is coming from inside his own driver academy. A 19-year-old has taken over the championship, the senior driver is unraveling, and Wolff has admitted he might have to turn the whole thing down a notch. Because if he does not, this could cost Mercedes everything. Right now, as the season hits its stride, the Mercedes garage should be the happiest place in the paddock. The team has won the first 6 races of the year. They lead the Constructors' Championship by a margin of nearly 80 points over Ferrari, the kind of cushion nobody can touch. Both cars are quick. Both cars are winning. This is the exact situation every team principal spends his whole career chasing. And it is quietly turning into a nightmare. Because the driver leading the World Championship is not the one Mercedes spent years grooming for the job. It is Kimi Antonelli, 19 years old, second season in the sport. Barely a year and a half of Formula One to his name. And he is sitting on 156 points at the very top of the standings, with a lead of 50 points over the man in the sister car. That man is George Russell, 28 years old. 5 seasons inside this team, the driver Mercedes pointed at and said, "This is our leader now. This is the man we build around." And he is third, not second, third, on 106 points. Behind a teenager in his own garage and behind Lewis Hamilton, the man he replaced as Mercedes #1, now winning in red for Ferrari. Think about that for a second. The senior driver of the most successful team of the modern era is being outscored by the kid on the other side of his own garage by 50 points. And the man who has to manage all of it has started using a word that should never come up when you are winning everything. Problem. So how does this happen? How does a teenager who has barely arrived take a proven Grand Prix winner and leave him this far behind, in the same car, with the same engineers, in the space of a single winter? And why is the man who runs the whole operation suddenly sounding nervous about the thing that is making him win? To see how fast this came apart, you have to see how fast Antonelli arrived. Mercedes did not discover Antonelli. They built him. They pulled him into their junior program when he was 12 years old, and they pushed him up through the lower categories quicker than almost anyone before him. He skipped an entire feeder series on the way up. He arrived in Formula One last year as the first Mercedes rookie in 7 decades, replacing a 7-time world champion with the entire sport waiting for him to sink. He did the opposite. He scored more points in his rookie season than any first-year driver in the history of Formula One, beating a mark that had stood for years. He took his first podium on the streets of Canada. He set the youngest pole of any kind the sport had ever seen. There was a rough patch in the middle of the year, a run of quiet weekends that even Wolff admitted were underwhelming, and the doubters circled. Then he answered it, closing the season with a 2nd place in Brazil and a podium in Las Vegas. That was the warning, and almost everyone treated it as a nice story instead. A talented kid still finding his feet. Nobody was ready for what came next. This is where the story takes a turn nobody expected. Because this season, Antonelli stopped finding his feet and started rewriting the record books. It opens in Australia with a Mercedes, 1-2, Russell ahead, Antonelli right behind him. Normal order, senior driver in front. Then they reach China, and the teenager puts the car on pole and wins the Grand Prix, becoming the youngest driver in the history of the sport ever to start a race from the front. And he does not stop there. He wins in Japan, he wins in Miami, he wins in Canada, he wins in Monaco. 5 Grands Prix in a row, one after another, all the way through the toughest stretch of the calendar. No driver in the history of Formula One has ever won 5 races back-to-back, that soon after a maiden victory, he becomes the first teenager ever to lead the World Championship. And then the youngest winner the streets of Monaco have ever seen. 5 wins. And every single one of them comes out of the same garage as George Russell. The same chassis, the same engine, the same pit wall. The only thing that changes from one car to the other is the human being driving it. And the gap is almost impossible to explain away, because George Russell is not a passenger. He is a proven Grand Prix winner. He is the driver Mercedes chose, over everyone else, to lead the team into a new era once their 7-time champion walked out the door. Before the season started, plenty of people had him marked as a genuine outsider for the title. This is not a slow driver being embarrassed by a quick one. This is one fast driver watching another fast driver find something he simply cannot. And that is exactly where the trouble starts. Because when 2 drivers share identical machinery and there is only one championship to fight over, sooner or later they stop racing the field and start racing each other. The team can manage a lot of things. It cannot manage that. It boils over in Montreal. The sprint race, the opening lap. Antonelli spots a gap on the outside of his own teammate and goes for it. Russell does what every racing driver alive does when a rival lunges for the lead. He shuts the door. Hard. hard enough that Antonelli runs out of road and very nearly ends up on the grass at full racing speed. Seconds later, the radio lights up. Antonelli is furious. He calls the move naughty. He says it should be a penalty, and then he says the line that tells you exactly where this is heading. If we need to race like this, then good to know. That is no longer a rookie venting. That is a championship leader drawing a line in front of his own team. And then a third voice cuts across the radio. Toto Wolff, the team principal himself, getting on the channel to his own teenager in the middle of the race, telling him to concentrate on his driving and stop moaning on the radio, telling him now is not the time, that they will sort this out inside the team, privately, not live in front of millions of people watching at home. You would think someone might have stepped in before it got to that. Nobody did. The next day, in the Grand Prix itself, the two of them touch again. Antonelli closes right up onto the back of Russell into the final chicane and almost rear-ends his own teammate. Two Mercedes, separated by inches. At the front of a race the team is supposed to be controlling with ease. Then Russell's car fails underneath him while he is leading. His battery gives out, and the moment passes. But the damage is done. Afterwards, the two of them barely speak. One short handshake in the cool-down area. That is the whole conversation. Here is what makes this different from two teammates simply having one bad weekend together. Their own boss admits the team only half enjoyed watching it. Wolff says it out loud. He may have to turn the fighting between his drivers down a notch. He points straight at that near miss in Montreal and spells it out. A moment like that, he says, could have ended with both cars in the wall. A double retirement, two Mercedes out on the same lap, a stack of championship points gone, all because two teammates refused to give an inch. So he lays out the choices the way he sees them. Option 1. Treat the other Mercedes like a car from a completely different team and let them race with no mercy at all. Option 2. Hold both drivers on a leash, allow overtaking only on the straights, turn the whole thing into something safe and processional and dull. Or option 3. Trust them. Trust two grown professionals to race each other hard and not take each other out of the race. Wolff says they are trying to go toward option 3. Trust. But trust is a strange thing to bring up about two men wearing the same uniform. You only talk about needing it once you are no longer certain it is there. And Wolff cannot simply solve this with a single radio call. The two drivers are too evenly matched to cleanly order one behind the other, and the teenager is far too valuable to ever hold back. The new rules this season have made the cars easier to follow and easier to pass, which means the old trick of telling a driver to hold station barely works anymore. The racing is closer than it has been in years. The one tool a team principal has always relied on to keep the peace is rusting in his hand, right at the moment he needs it most. If you are following this fight as closely as the people inside that garage are, hit subscribe. This story is moving every single race weekend, and it is nowhere near finished. Now watch what happens next, because all that pressure that has been building since the first race is about to come down squarely on the head of George Russell. By the time the season reaches Monaco, Antonelli looks untouchable. He puts the car on pole and leads from start to finish to win the most famous race on the entire calendar, the youngest driver ever to do it. 5 wins in a row, and the most prestigious one of all. And Russell? His weekend falls apart in the pit lane. He picks up a penalty for speeding where he should not have. Then a second penalty on top of it for failing to serve the first one properly. He finishes 12th. The senior driver of the team, buried in the midfield, a lap and a half of pure chaos, while his teenage teammate stands alone on the top step of the podium. Mercedes are so frustrated by how Russell's race comes apart that they start openly talking about legal options, about going to the governing body to ask for some kind of remedy. Even as Wolff quietly accepts the chances of actually getting that result overturned are close to nothing, because the penalties were served during the race itself, and you cannot simply rewind a race that has already happened. So they arrive in Barcelona, and for one single weekend, the old order comes back to life. This is the circuit where Russell needs to remind the entire paddock exactly who he is. And he does. He drags that Mercedes to pole position, beating both Antonelli and Hamilton to the fastest lap of the whole weekend. For the first time in what feels like an eternity, George Russell looks every bit the driver Mercedes built their plans around. Then the lights go out, and it slips through his fingers all over again. Antonelli, running right behind him, finds a way past for second place. Teammate overtaking teammate, wheel to wheel, for position. The exact scenario Wolff has been losing sleep over for weeks. And then, in a cruel twist, Antonelli's own car betrays him. The engine lets go. His race is finished. His incredible winning streak finally broken. Russell does not stop him. His own engine does. Up at the front, somebody else takes the win. Lewis Hamilton, the man Mercedes chose to let go, driving for Ferrari, winning his first race in red, on a day when the podium is filled by 3 British drivers for the first time in well over half a century. And almost everyone missed one detail in the noise of Hamilton's win. After the race, Wolff admits that letting his 2 drivers race each other so hard earlier in the day may have cost Mercedes the win. He says they bled several seconds away to Hamilton, while the 2 silver cars were busy scrapping with one another. And then, for the first time all season, he says the 2 words every Mercedes fan dreads hearing: team orders. He says if one driver has that kind of speed advantage, and the team is at real risk of throwing away a race because of it, then team orders become a conversation they are going to have. Now, it would be easy to look at a 50-point gap and decide Antonelli is simply the faster driver, full stop. People thought they had the full picture. They were wrong, because a huge chunk of that gap is not about talent at all. It is about misfortune. In Japan, Russell is leading the race when a safety car arrives at exactly the wrong moment, wipes out his advantage, and drops him down the order. In Montreal, he is leading the Grand Prix when his battery fails and ends his afternoon on the spot. In Monaco, it is the penalty disaster. Strip out the bad luck across those weekends, and the 50 points shrinks dramatically. Wolff himself reckons Russell would be sitting far closer to the top, perhaps 50 points higher up the table, if the season had treated him even slightly fairly. But that is not the whole story either, because there is something deeper going on, and Russell is honest enough to admit it himself. He says he is bamboozled. He says there is clearly a difference in the way the 2 of them drive, and that last year that very same difference worked beautifully in his favor, and this year it is working perfectly in Antonelli's. On the circuits where getting heat into the tires quickly is the whole game, Russell's smooth, precise, surgical style struggles to wake the rubber up. Antonelli's more aggressive style does it without even trying. Same car. But the same car does not flatter both men the same way. And right now, the calendar is stacked with exactly the kind of tracks that play into the teenagers' hands. So is it ugly? Is this actually a war? Here is the part the headlines tend to leave out. Away from the track, the 2 of them are not enemies at all. After the mess in Montreal, both drivers get summoned to see Wolff. Antonelli describes it like being marched into the headmaster's office. And the message that comes out of that room is not what you would expect from a team at war with itself. Both drivers tell the team the same thing: trust us to race each other. Let us go. Russell says plainly that nothing about it is personal once they are on track, that the respect between the 2 of them has not changed and is not going to change. Antonelli talks about how much genuine respect there is, how well the 2 of them actually work together behind closed doors. There is no refusal to speak, no accusation of favoritism, no knife slipped between the shoulder blades. What there is instead is something far more dangerous over the long run. 2 drivers who genuinely like and respect each other, fighting over the one prize that has destroyed every friendship like theirs that came before. And that is exactly the thing keeping Toto Wolff awake at night. Because he has lived through this once already. It was Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. The last time Mercedes had 2 drivers this evenly matched, 2 teammates fighting this hard for the same crown, it did not end with a handshake. It ended with the pair of them colliding on track, with a friendship that had started back in their karting days curdling into something poisonous, with a team quietly tearing itself in half from the inside, even as it kept winning championships. That fight dragged on for years. It cost real friendships. It very nearly cost the team its mind. And one piece of that history should send a genuine chill through everyone in that garage. The last time those 2 Mercedes drivers crashed into one another in that era, it happened right here, at this very same Barcelona circuit. The same corner of the world where Antonelli has just overtaken Russell. The same weekend the streak finally broke. Wolff knows that history better than anybody alive. He has even sat Antonelli down and walked him through it personally. The good parts of that old rivalry, and the very bad parts. The things, in his own words, they must never repeat. The trouble is that knowing exactly how a fire started does not give you the power to stop the next one from catching. But there is one more piece to all of this, and it is the piece that turns an awkward season into a genuine crisis. The clock is already ticking. George Russell just does not know yet how loud it is about to get. Because hanging over every part of this is a name that has haunted Mercedes for 2 years now. Max Verstappen. He sits 7th in the championship right now, well over 100 points adrift of the Mercedes pair, in a car that is no longer the class of the field. And there is talk of a clause in his deal that could let him walk as early as the summer break. The paddock has never stopped talking about the possibility of Verstappen wearing silver, and the whispers point hard at next season. If Verstappen does walk through that door, there is a brutal logic to what happens the moment he does. Antonelli is the future. He is 19 years old. He is leading the World Championship, and Mercedes built him from a 12-year-old boy. He is not going anywhere, for any money, for any name. Which means the seat that comes under threat, the seat that would have to be cleared to make room for a 4-time world champion, is not the teenager's seat. It is George Russell's, so picture his exact position right now. He is being outscored by his own teammate. He is watching a second-year driver rewrite the record books in identical machinery. And in the background, the most relentless driver of his entire generation is being linked, over and over, directly to his seat for next year. Russell has said his own contract renews automatically, as long as he keeps performing. The cruel part is that performing has never been harder than it is right now, because the bar he has to clear is being set, every single weekend, by the kid sitting on the other side of his own garage. So where does all of this leave Mercedes? In first place, and in trouble at the very same time, leading both championships, and quietly terrified of the very thing that is winning them. They have two of the fastest young futures in the entire sport sitting in their garage, and only one trophy to hand out at the end of the year. For now, Wolff is choosing trust. He is choosing to let them race. But every weekend that Antonelli edges further ahead, and every weekend that Russell slips further back, the pressure to finally pick a side grows heavier. And the moment one team order is given, the moment one of them is told over the radio to move aside for the other, the trust is gone, and there is no way to ever get it back. This is no longer about whether George Russell can beat a 19-year-old. It is about whether Mercedes will even let him try, or whether they have quietly decided that their future is already sitting in the other car. This season is not over. The fight inside that garage is only just getting started. And the next time these two go wheel to wheel at the front of a race, the entire sport is going to be watching to see which one of them blinks first. If you want to see how this one ends, follow it here, because this is the rivalry that is going to define the next decade of Mercedes. And it is unfolding right now, one race at a time.